Number 13, we're asked to find the roots. I know that roots mean the same thing as x-intercepts, and x-intercepts happen when y or f of x is equal to 0, so the first thing you're going to do here is set the equation equal to 0. After you set it equal to 0, you're going to try to factor the right-hand side. So looking at what factoring method I'll choose, looks like it has 3 terms, nothing in common, so I'm down to method number 3. There's a number in front of the x squared, so this is where I have to multiply the first and last number. Always take the positive value. So 12 times 2 is 24. I'm subtracting the numbers in my list because that's a minus sign in front of the 2. And I'm looking for what gives me the middle term 5, and then I'll modify to get 5 negatives. The factor pair that would give me 5 would be 8 times 3. And then to get 5 negatives, I would have to add a negative on the 8. So because there's a number in front of the x squared, we're going to have to factor by grouping. So factor by grouping, your first and last number stay the same, but your middle term gets broken up. So I have 12x squared. Instead of negative 5x's, I'm using my 2 new factors in any order, negative 8x's plus 3x's, and then that back number, negative 2, stays the same. Underline your 2 groups and factor by finding the greatest common factor. So my first group, biggest number that divides 12 and 8 would be 4, and they both share an x. What's left in the parentheses? Well, 4x times what gets me back to 12x squared? That would be a 3x. Bring down the minus sign. And then 4x times what would get me back to 8x? A 2. The sign that separates the 2 groups goes straight down. For my next group, there's no number that they have in common, so I'm just going to pull out a 1. And remember, your parentheses always has to match. So if the first one was 3x minus 2, the second one has to be 3x minus 2. From here, we could write our 2 factors. One of them is the matching parentheses, the 3x minus 2. It doesn't matter which one you fill it in. And the other factor comes from what's on the outside, the greatest common factor, which is 4x plus 1. And we'll bring down that equals 0 that we kind of left out while we were factoring. Then once you have the right-hand side factored, you're going to apply the zero product property, which says if you're multiplying 2 quantities together, here's the first one, here's the second one, and your answer is 0, then either that first one, the 3x minus 2, has to be equal to 0, or the second one, the 4x plus 1, has to be equal to 0. So we solve each 2-step equation. So for the first one, add 2 to both sides. Always move what's not attached to the variable first. So I have 3x equals 2. One more step in order to get x alone, divide by 3. So I have my first solution, x equals 2/3. For my second equation, subtract 1 from both sides. So I have 4x equals negative 1. One more step in order to get x alone, divide by 4. I hope I don't run out of room here. So I have x equals negative 1/4. So my 2 solutions were 2/3 and negative 1/4.